Okay, we're all together, so we can begin now then. So I'd like to call this session of the Board of Revision to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Ojibwe, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 41st Nation Treaty 3 territory. With me today are Carrie Linkletter and Gail Anderson. My name is Harvey Diamond. I'll be chairing the panel. Our administrator is Crystal Harland, and the City of Winnipeg Assessment Department is represented by Svetlana Scheibel. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision are requests that have been described in each application. We will be limiting discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered as evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration, and makes this decision on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or to classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to an application for exemption from taxation. And should you wish to appeal, information on do so will be included to the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, it will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed. With each applicant following their swearing in, we will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and the applicant's testimony followed by any questions. And each side will be given an opportunity to summarize if they wish to do so. Once all the evidence upon an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The person will repeat for each item on the docket today, and the session will close after all applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You receive the Board's order by receipt mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will form part of a record. And we'll be hearing items 1 to 3 and 5 on the docket today. And Mrs. Harlan, please affirm the assessor's and applicant's testimony at this time.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Madam Assessor, would you please state your full name?
Svetlana Scheibel.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry.
And would you please state your full name?
Marcelo Navarro.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Okay. A couple of preliminary matters like to discuss with the parties. Ms. Scheibel, I noticed on your first two applications, you've indicated that the disclosure was not a full disclosure, but this assessment department is not seeking non-cooperation, are they?
No.
No. And I also noticed that you've shown numerous methods of evaluating the properties, but I'm assuming that you're relying on the income approach and just showing the other avenues of valuation to show that your approach is accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And I also noticed that it seems that in almost every case, both parties are pretty well on point with the NOI and the income approach insofar as the NOI is concerned. And really, it seems like almost exclusively we're really dealing with cap rates. Would you agree with that? Everybody, both you and Mr. Navarro.
Yes.
Ms. Scheibel?
Capitalization rate, it's selected by model.
I understand that. I'm just saying that's basically what it comes down to, though, in these hearings, and the evidence that you should be emphasizing is the cap rates, I think. Because I think your NOIs are pretty close. In fact, in most cases, Mr. Navarro's seem to be higher than the assessment departments made by the model. Ms. Scheibel?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, well, then we can proceed with item number 1 on the agenda then. That is the property at 475 Sterling Lion Parkway. And Ms. Scheibel, when you're ready, you can begin.
File number 24-1754, roll number 100067761115. Address is 475 Sterling Lion Parkway. We assess roll 2025 roll with reference date April 1st, 2023 at 9,903,000. The subject property is complete auto dealership that built in 2022. Has a land area of 87,342 square feet, plan area 29,752 square feet, gross floor area and leasable area 29,752 square feet. On page number 2, we have sale of land in 2019 of 250,000. The subject property owned and occupied. You can see that it's on page 2 and 3 street view and city view. The subject property located southwest of the city. More photo following on page 5.4. The subject property located in zoning C, commercial regional. This district intend to accommodate developments of larger scale, distinctive and attractive regional centers, containing a mix of concentrated land uses. Those commercial uses are subject to frequent view by public and visitors to Winnipeg, and they should provide an attractive appearance with landscaping, sufficient parking, and controlled traffic movements. The center should provide commercial office, institutional, residential use in structures are higher intensities in surrounding area. The area must also contain concentration of medium to high density office development, as well as broad mixed complementary uses, which might include major civil and public facilities and parks. This district may contain multifamily housing and development, should facilitate and encourage pedestrian travel between residential and not residential uses. On page 6 and 7, I presented permits. Showed that subject property was built in 2022. Construction 2-story, 2,764 square meter, auto dealership, repair facilities. On page number 8, 9, I have presented rent comparable of retail mixed boxes. If you open on page 53 of my brief, I have order A-02-223 that showed municipal border. The board has considered the characteristic of various classification to determine its similarities in difference to Miss Calais retail and such retail as chain restaurant, supermarket, discount store, department store. The board accepts arguments that auto mall in agglomeration of auto dealership located in different sections of the city result in the auto mall characteristics similar to regional retail with national rather than local tenants. The board is satisfied that subjects similar are for not identical to larger national international retail properties located in or near regional shopping facilities.
Ms. Scheibel, excuse me for a second. I think that we are pretty well with the NOI. I don't think we're disputing the way you evaluated it. I think it comes down to the cap rate. And I don't think you need to argue about your charge per square foot that the model chose, because I think that that is agreeable by Mr. Navarro. So I think we can get to the cap rate. I think that's where we really have to go. And I'd let you go up to now.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that my net operating incomes will confirm what agent.
Well,
It's
no,
part of my brief.
I think we've come down, Mr. Navarro's NOIs are almost essentially the same as the models everywhere. I think that the difference comes in the cap rate. I think we've already acknowledged that when I spoke to everybody to begin with. So I don't think we have a problem with the way the model has evaluated the property or made a square footage assessment for what the rent would be. I think when it comes
Okay.
to really is the cap rate. If you could
I
cause
will be very
that would be
short.
helpful.
On page 8 and 9, I presented retail big boxes rent. It shows that average, it's total average for 80 comparables, $18.78. On page number 10, presented inform approach. We assessed 29,752 square feet at $17.63. It's given potential rent of $524,647. We apply vacancy loss 2%, similar for all dealership across the city. We account for expenses not recoverable of 3% shortfall or $6 per square foot for vacant space. Give us net operating income on $495,159. Overall capitalization rate for subject property 5%. On page number 12, we look in not office, we look on retail. So it's regional retail, city of Winnipeg for 2080 percentile or retails from 5.85 to 6.75%. The model generated 5% because it's a brand new building. It gives us estimation of $9,903,000. Let's look through my brief. On page 14, I presented a property cost approach. If you can see that replacement cost of new building over 9 million, and land value of 2.8 million give us total value by cost approach 12 million. We assess only 9.9 million. On page number 15, support of our rent for land at $32.55. I presented 5 comparables. On page number 17, I showed direct comparison approach. If we look our assessed value of 9.9 million and divide by gross floor area 29,000, give us assessed value of this property $332.85. I have presented 7 sales of similar property. You can see comparable number 1 on Pembina Highway 2535, sold in 2012 for $330,000, 74 cents. Comparables on Waverly 1717 Waverly 500, sold in 2010 for $284, 58 cents per floor area. On Waverly again, units 400 sold for $277.15. And if you keep going, if you look on my page 18, recently sale of Nairn and Regent, 200 and 265 on Regent. Selling on Regent 1485 in 2012 for $375 per square foot. More photo of my direct comparison approach following, so I don't go deep. Land comparison approach on land sale comparable on page 29 with air photos. On page 34, I presented municipal board decision for 3965 Portrait Avenue, units 90. His decision for 2003, and also presented another municipal board decision that support retail similarity on page 43, municipal order 8-02-223. In my brief presented on page 61, status of title of sale of land in 2019 for 3.25 million. On page 64 through 67, it's income expense Miller presented to us. Based on our evidence presented in my brief, I ask to confirm the 2025 assessed value of $9,903,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scheibel. Mr. Navarro, any questions?
Yeah, just a few.
Thank you.
Ms. Scheibel, these parameters were all modeled, correct? There were no adjustments that we made to this valuation?
No, it's model generated.
Okay, thank you. Now on page 14, you provided a cost approach with the cost approach summary. Now, did you include the cost approach workup?
Yes, our cost approach, we have the cost approach of subject property was estimating using the Marshall Swift commercial estimator program using by City of Winnipeg Property Assessment Department in-house computer costing system. If you look on page number 14, a cost valuation presented. Replacement cost of subject property over 9.3 million. Total value of land 2.8 million. Give us cost of by cost approach 12 million. Cost summary by subject section. You can see of building description. You can see comparables on page number 15 to support land value of $32.55 per square foot. With area of land 87,000. On page 16, land in building summary give us 12,077,000.
Okay, I'm just going to rephrase my question because I think you may have missed something, but I recognize that you have provided a summary here. And I work on cost properties all the time. And when I submit, the assessor submits, they usually submit a cost approach workup, which details all of the individual adjustments that are made to each component of the property. And that's not in your evidence, correct?
It's this type of DIP we submit for municipal board. My cost approach for what we use for Board of Revision, it's summary, because it's Marshall Swift commercial estimated program using by our assessment department in-house system.
Okay, I'll stop there. Now in the back of your brief, which shows some of the evidence that you included regarding some of the stated cases from the municipal board. Now, if I may summarize this, and you can agree or not agree, but what is being presented in those stated cases is that for the most part, retail parameters are the ones that are being used to validate the numbers that the board is coming to their conclusion on, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you would also agree that there is a stated case that's coming up in January, and that may change the course of valuation for auto dealerships, correct?
Correct. We wait for this hearing.
Excuse me. Okay, so that is my question regarding that. Now, the last question is regarding the cap rate that you used. That this was a 5% cap rate. I don't like to put these things out because they may not be relevant, but that's a huge movement from the previous cap rate that the city used in their model. And it's in terms of what's currently in place. The retail parameters say that at the 20th percentile, you're at 5.85, and at the 80th percentile, you're at 6.0. First of all, if retail parameters are being used, then why is there such a discrepancy between the cap rate that's in place versus what is noted in your evidence regarding cap rates?
Because it's a brand new building, no risk associated with some problem of these improvements. That's why model generate 5% capitalization rate.
Okay, but we assume that the cap rate at the lowest, the 20th percentile, are the best properties. Would you agree?
For this subject property, yes, it's 40%. It's capitalization rate range. It's belt. We showed only 60% range, but we still have 20% both sides. So
Okay.
the subject property 5%.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's completes your questioning, Mr. Navarro?
Yeah, those are my questions.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Anderson, any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Linklater, any questions?
Yes, sorry, Mr. Chair, I have a slight delay when I take my mute off, just so you're aware. Just one question. Good morning, Ms. Schabel. Just looking at your brief on page 12 that has the chart of the cap rates that the city uses. So your brief states that the cap rate is 5%, correct?
Correct.
So, and you are comparing this property to retail, correct?
Correct.
So, under the chart, I don't see a 5%. So is the 5 something that you chose or the model chose?
It's model choose. On our chart, we presented a range between 20 percentile and 80 percentile. It showed only 60% of property going inside this range, capitalization rate.
Okay, so,
and subject property, it just recently built 2022, 1 year before reference date. It's no any risk associated with this property. That's why model generate 5% cap rate.
okay. All right, thank you. That's all my questions.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Schabel. I have the same question basically, because we are doing the cap rates. And so basically a property at the 20th percentile would, the model should choose a cap rate of 5.85%. Would you agree?
For subject property, because
I'm
it's
not talking about the subject property. I'm talking about a property that is at the 20th percentile. In other words,
it's 60%
there's
of
19
property.
properties that are better, and I guess 79 properties that are worse.
It's 60% of property for retail between 5.85 to 7%.
Okay,
but
so
we still have 40% what subject property in.
no, I understand. There's 20% that are worse than 80%, and there'd be 20% that would be better than 20%. But what I'm asking you is, what would be the best rate then? So if you have the best property in the city, what capital rate would it be given?
For subject property, 5%, because by using 5%, we over just close to 10 million. By cost approach to subject property, 12 million. We cannot increase, make higher capitalization rate. It will be undervalued subject property.
Well, we're valuing it though on the income approach. And the income approach, you get an NOI, which you have, and then you gotta tap in a reasonable cap rate. And I'm asking you, what would be the best cap rate of a property in Winnipeg? This one's at 5%. Is there anything that's less than 5%?
For subject property, 5%.
I'm asking you, is there any properties in the city that have a cap rate generated? I'm talking about retail, of course, better than 5%.
When you look on our charter of capitalization rate, it's estimated all sales across the city. So it's statistical data in same program.
I'm asking you as an assessor, have you seen any retail properties that have a cap rate of less than 5%?
I don't have this information in front of me, but my cost approach, indirect comparison approach, support they much higher than what capitalization income approach. It support income approach. It shows that subject property assessed correct. We cannot go lower. It will be undervalued subject property.
Well, we are dealing with income approach here, though.
Yes, but I presented fee approach. It's appraising, free approach for subject property because it's complicated property and it's it will be going to the court.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Shago. Okay, Mr. Navarro, you can proceed with your evidence.
Okay, so you can start on page 5 and see some of the pictures. This is the Porsche dealership in the Sterling Line Parkway Mall area. I forget the name of it. I think it's called, I don't even remember the name of the mall area, what it's called. However, I think most of you know this area. It's just slightly west of Sterling Line and Kenniston. So it would be the new outlet mall area. You can see some of the pictures continuing on. In this particular case, I got to see the entirety of the property as opposed to just the showroom and some of the shop areas. So I'll skip most of this because I don't think it's really relevant. We can go to page 15. So our cap rates are coming from our cap rate study that was submitted along with this evidence. So I can go and summarize this afterwards and provide you some background on the cap rate study. However, we categorize the cap rates into 3 asset classes: retail top quality, retail standard quality, and retail low quality. And the ranges go from a low to a high. So the best of the retail top quality would be 6.50, and the high would be 7.0. Now that lines up with the next asset class, which is the retail standard quality, which is at 7% and goes up to 7.5%. And then you have the retail low quality, which ranges between 7.50 and 8.50 plus. So that is essentially how I determine what cap rate I would assign to this property. It is from current municipal orders that we draw this conclusion. So at this point, the board has historically decided that retail parameters are what are supposed to be used for the most part in the valuation of a auto dealership. And we haven't deviated from that. Now, we have stated that there will be a case at the municipal board called a test case, which may change the outcome of how we value these properties, or it may not. We don't know. But at this point, this is what's in the books. And this is what we're using. So from that, I've applied a 6.50 cap rate. Now, there is also a relation in terms of what we did in the previous cycle, because we usually look at the change, the basis point changes from one cycle to another. Now, in the previous cycle, I used a 6.75. I added a 25% adjustment to that cap rate from last cycle, which brought me to 6.50, which is essentially at our retail top quality class. Now, I don't think the net operating income is being debated here. So we have a net operating income of 515,100 divided by the capitalization rate of 6.50 gives me an income valuation of 7,924,622 or 7,925,000 rounded. In the appendix, you can see the detailed pictures of some of the property. And that's basically it. That is that portion of it. If I may, I may just summarize the cap study, the retail cap study very quickly. And,
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Rivera.
and if it would be acceptable by the chair, could we also apply that to the following hearings as well, so we don't have to repeat that as well?
Mr. Navarro, I'm Ms. Shaibo. Anything that you indicated on this property that's repetitive in your other briefs need not be restated. We'll remember that and just ask us to apply your previous comments on item number 1 when you deal with it.
Okay, so this is the retail capitalization rate study submitted by Altus Group, and the creator of this cap rate study is Carrie Reimer. I don't need to summarize the first few pages, so I'll just note the pertinent portions of this study, which start on page 7. So the important thing to take into consideration regarding most asset classes is the change in interest rates, inflation, and capitalization rates. So this is a common trend. It affects all asset classes, not just retail asset classes, but in general, because of the inflation that started to increase at the end of 2022, and the Bank of Canada's countermeasure in trying to control that by increasing interest rates also increased cap rates. That is basically what this section is saying. It was observed in basically every asset class, not just retail. So that is the summary of the effect of interest rates, inflation, and cap rates. So another section that's worth summarizing is on page 10. And this is basically called a structural change, continuing impacts of pandemic on retail operations. So the pandemic had a lasting effect on a lot of asset classes. You can see it in the office sector in the downtown, where office vacancy is very high. Many people are still continuing the process of working from home or having a hybrid work schedule. And that seems to have affected also the retail sector. So in terms of the retail sector, the effects were slightly different. It's not really so much the occupancy and the hybrid workplace that are affecting it, but more so the change in habits in terms of the pandemic. And so those are relating to shopping habits. So what happened is that the retail sector changed from one of going to a location and buying your goods in place of ordering them from sites like Amazon and things like that. So that is how the pandemic is still having a lasting effect on it. In terms of auto dealership sales. It's also being affected by that because a lot of people are now buying cars online as opposed to going to the dealership and visiting them. So if anybody has recently been through that process, you know, apart from the fact that there's been issues with supply chain matters in the auto sector, people are also changing to buying online as opposed to going to the dealership, testing 6 or 7 different vehicles and then deciding. So those habits are starting to change as well and having an effect on the auto dealership sector as well. Now, the next section that we'll note is on page 12. And that is retail cap rate trends on the retail top quality. So you can see on this page that basically the top quality retail properties are increasing by 25 basis points to 50 basis points, with roughly 15% of it says here, participants expecting rates to increase even further. And that's relating to cap rates. So we could see changes between 50 and 75 basis points. So basically, this is again dealing with the issue of the lasting effects of interest rates, inflation, all of that for this period, starting in the end of 2022. On page 33, you can see again the same capitalization rate conclusions that we drew. So again, just to go over them, the retail top quality class. So this would be your regional centers, those top quality assets, and this would be one of them. So from our perspective, the Seasons, or I'm actually not even sure what it's called, the outlet mall, is at the top. So we would put something in that neighborhood. And again, the retail ranges between 6.5 and 7, standard between 7 and 7.50, and the low quality between 7.50 and 8.50 plus. So that's my presentation on 475 Sterling Line and the cap study, and I'm open for questions.
Thank you. Ms. Shaibo, any questions?
Yes, please. Opel cap study on page 67, please. Everyone with me?
Go ahead.
On page 67, we have cap rate for Winnipeg. We look for retail. The subject property has a commercial zoning C4 regional. Let's look regional. 5.75% to 6.25%. My question, if subject property has same commercial zoning regional, why agent pick 6.5%? What reason behind?
Well, okay, so you've noted that this is CBRE research, which is just one of the agencies that we looked at. So there is some variance even amongst those, but basically we draw our conclusions from our own study. So we do see the guidance in terms of the basis point change from one assessment cycle to the other, and that's generally what we draw from those from that data that we collect on the brokerage firms. So not necessarily drawing our conclusions from that, we're drawing more a conclusion on the basis rate change from one cycle to the other. So we would have compared the Q1 21 cap rates to the Q3 2021 or Q1 2023 to see what the basis rate change was. So we're not drawing our conclusions, and you can see at the very top that this is Q1 2021. It's not even Q1 2023.
No further questions.
Thank you. Ms. Sinclair, any questions?
Sorry about that. Yes, Mr. Navarro, just one question. I think you indicated that you had inspected this property.
I've inspected to some degree all of these properties. This one just happened to have been a complete look at the property. So from top to bottom. And every
Okay.
space inside of it. Whereas with some of the other properties, I looked at the showroom, the parts room and the shop, and basically almost as a customer, as opposed to this one where one of the people from the dealership actually took me through the entirety of the property.
All right. And can you speak to the condition of the showroom?
The showroom is good quality. It's actually, no, it's I would say it's probably a little bit above good. And that is the only area that's good. The rest of it is pretty much plain. And the showroom really makes up the smallest portion of the site. So the rest of it is parts. There are some office and lunch areas, and the shop areas are the largest parts of this, which really require no finish. I mean, basically you have implements in there, tools, you have hoists and things like that, which are equipment, which we don't assess. So it's basically no wall finish or anything like that. Whereas the showroom has fancy finishes, right? And so that's why there's a difference in terms of the rates that we're applying to this, because from the basis of cost, I mean, if you're thinking cost, there's going to be a difference in the money that you put into the shop versus the money that you put into the showroom. There has to be, because one has fancy finishes and the other one has no finishes. So that's why we stagger, or you see a fluctuation in terms of the rates for the different areas. Sorry.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Chair, may I redirect to Ms. Schabel, please?
Go ahead.
Ms. Schabel, I'm just wondering if you inspected this property at all?
No,
No. And have you inspected any of the properties on the docket this morning?
no, I don't have time.
Okay,
That
thank you.
was inspected by my colleagues.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson, any questions?
I have no questions. They've been asked and answered. Thanks.
Thank you. And I have no questions either, so we can then proceed with our next item, item number 2.
What about summary?
If you want to make a summary, go ahead.
Yes, please. Our job here today is to analyze the market evidence to determine the best conclusion of market value. My opinion of market value is supported by 3 approaches: income approach, cost approach, and direct comparison approach. Our bigger disagreement only with cap rate. For the 2025 general assessment, capitalization rate for the city were derived from the model generated estimate of net operating income and sale prices that were time adjusted to April 1st, 2023. The assessed values produced by the application of two model-generated capitalization rate were compared to sale prices. The assessment to sale price ratios were calculated. The resulting ratio statistic for the city assessment taxation department income-producing models satisfy the standards specified in set 4 in the standard for ratio study approved April 2013, published by the International Association of the Assessing Officers. So our capitalization 5%, it's a computer estimation of capitalization rate for the subject property. Based on mainly the evidence, the analysis of April 1st, 2023 market value of subject property is 9,903,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scheibel. Mr. Navarro, would you like to make a summation on this property?
Yes, I'll just note that in terms of our valuation, we took into consideration the retail sector because that is essentially where the municipal board has sided up to this point. So our parameters are consistent with the evidence that we've submitted on the retail sector, and that's what our valuation is based on. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Scheibel, you can then proceed to your evidence on item number 2, which is the property that is located at 485 Sterling Lion Parkway.
File number 24-3036, roll number 1000677635. Address is 485 Sterling Lion Parkway. We roll assessed all roll 2025 with reference day April 1st, 2023. Assessed value is 21,237,000. The subject property dealership, complete auto dealership, built in 2018, located in same C4 regional zoning. Land area of subject property 135,621 square feet. Plan area 31,652 square feet. Gross floor area eligible area 75,112 square feet. On page number 2, sale of subject property in 2018 for 27,130,000, and we assess in 2023 reference date 21,237,000. Very close to the sale in 2018. On page number 2, street view of subject property. On page number 3, location of subject property. The subject property located southwest of city chart. On page number 4 and 5, air photo view. The subject property, like previous property, has same commercial regional zoning C4. I would not repeat myself. On page number 6, 7 more street view of subject property. On page number 8, start picture of subject property inside. 7, 8, and on page number 9, showroom. More showroom with office space. You can look on page 13, more office space. 17, waiting area. Shopping on page 21. On page number 23, I presented permits about construction of subject property, and I want to bring your attention on page 24. The total project value, if you look general information on your right bottom left corner, right bottom corner, total project value over 14 million just to build this subject property. On page 25, 26, I presented rent comparables of retail big boxes, how we support our applied rent. So our 80 comparables by different regions showed together average $18.78. The subject property sterling. If you look on page 26, top of comparable 42 to 60, they average $21.51 for property close to the subject property. We assess $15 per square foot. It's fair. We apply $15 for 75,112 square feet, give us 1,127,000. We apply same 2% vacancy loss, expenses not recoverable 3%, and shortfall $6 per square foot for occupation empty to maintain vacant space. It's across all dealership across the city. Give us net operating income 1,046,866. For subject property, model generated 5%. A capitalization rate give us estimation 21,237,000. On page number 29, I have present capitalization rate chart. The capitalization rate are further supported by comparison with real estate market regional from Colliers International, Cadena, CBC Re, National Research, Cashman and Wakefield. The subject properties retail, 60% of property going inside 5.85 to 7% capitalization rate. On page number 21, I have presented cost approach. Cost summary on page 31. The subject, the build, total replacement cost of subject property 16 million, total value of land 4 million, and give us cost by cost approach 20 million. The subject property sale again in 2018 over 27 million. On page 32, I provide support for land is vacant at $13.30. I presented 5 comparables. Showed mean of $13.59 and media $30.44. On page 33, land and building summary give us estimation over 20 million. On page 34, I have presented direct comparison approach. I have presented 8 sale of similar property and look that assessed value of subject property 21,237,000. If it's divided to gross floor of improvements, 75,112 square feet give us estimate assessed value of per square foot, $282.74. That very well supported by my 8 direct comparison sales. On page 37, photo of this direct comparison sales through page 45. On page 46, I presented sale land comparison with land view from page 46 to page 50. On page 51, same municipal order 8-04-179. On page 60, I presented order 8 municipal order 8-02-223. On page 78, status of title of sale of subject property. If you look on page 80, original instrument number 9, transfer of land happened in December 2018 for 27,130,000. On page 81, 82, income expense mailer provided to us. According to information presented in this brief, the market value of subject property for 2025 assessed years, we reference the April 1st, 2003, is 21,237,000. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Mr. Navarro, any questions?
Yeah, basically just one, I think, or at least a couple. In terms of the valuation, again, this one is completely model driven.
Model driven, correct?
Okay, and in terms of page 24, the construction value noted in the permit, which shows the total project value, is $14 million. Can you speak about that? Because I noticed that there was no cost approach included in this one.
I have cost, 1 second. I need cost approach. No, we have cost approach on page 31.
Sorry?
What is your question? Could you repeat this? It's on page 24, I posted permit showed construction of 2-story auto dealership. Total projects 14 million.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
Okay, Ms. Anderson, any questions?
Yes, thank you. Just in regards to the table of your cap rate on page 29, you said it represents 60% of the properties.
Correct.
So there's another 40%. So can you advise what you believe then would be the lowest cap rate we'd see and what would be the highest cap rate we'd see for retail properties?
I don't have this information in front of me, but to produce, to show this table of 60% of property, model use derived capitalization rate from of all properties sold across the city by dividing each property net operating income by its sale price. So it's statistical crunch of numbers. It's our statistical data, our actual evidence in city of Winnipeg showed that 60% of property for retail between 5.8 to 7. Subject property that just it's located regional sector retail. It just recently built in 2019. No any risk involved in the new improvements, this huge piece of land. That's why capitalization 5% is warrant.
So to rephrase my question then, would 5% be the absolute lowest cap rate we would see? Like, is this the lowest that you would see for retail property? Or do you believe that there would, have you seen any lower?
For subject property, we use retail, but I'm looking in office. I don't know deep about retail properties. I don't have much answer.
Okay. Thank you very much. Oh,
Thank
sorry.
you. Ms. Linkletter, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. My only question is the sale that you show of 27,130,000. Do you know if that's arm's length?
Yes, it's a eligible sale, and I posted status of title on page 78. So it is sale on 27,000,000 2018. We apply for 2000. It's a model generate very close in 2025. So we cannot assess property less. It's already on low range of assessment.
Okay, so you got it selling on December 21st in 2018 for $27,130,000. And I asked you if you know if that was an arm's length sale or not.
It's an eligible sale.
So what sale?
It's a right sale. We analyze it. It's
You know, if
between two not related parties,
the parties are not related.
correct?
Okay, that's what I asked. Thank you. That's my only question. Okay, Mr. Navarro, you can proceed.
Okay, this is 485 Sterling Line Parkway. This is across from the other property that we just dealt with at 475 Sterling Line Parkway. I don't need to get into most of this information because I believe our rent was actually higher than the assessors. So this is about cap rates. So if you turn to, I believe this would be the cap rate section. I'm just going to count the numbers because I don't think I numbered this. I believe it's
on page 14. You started.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a section there called capitalization rate. So in terms of the valuation of auto dealerships, are using the retail information to base the capitalization rates on. So again, this would be considered the retail top quality class at 6.50%. And that is what we've applied to this dealership as we've applied to the dealership right beside. In terms of the sale itself, I'll speak to that because I put some information in this. And this is partly part of the reason for some of the issues that are going to be dealt with in the stated case or the test case that's coming up at the municipal board is the use of these sales. And for a particular reason, because you saw that in the assessor's information, there was a project value of $14 million in 2017, and then a sale again the following year for $27 million. Now, what we'll note about that is that there are several aspects of auto dealership sales that are in a way intangible and hard to remove from the basic retail component or the fixed assets. So by law, you're required to separate any intangible assets from the fixed assets or the real estate. However, it's difficult to do in some sense in auto dealerships because of this concept of blue sky. And blue sky is the value, as you can see, that is an intangible asset attributable to earnings capacity, reputation, franchises, location, demographics, and other factors. Blue sky is the hardest aspect of a vehicle dealership to separate from the value of the fixed assets. However, most people understand the concept when they are given the example of two identical dealerships next to each other. One is a no-name used car dealership, the other is a branded dealership. One will have a substantially lower value for fixed assets, even though the two are identical. Now that is basically a very crude example of what blue sky is. But one of the reasons that we've challenged this, and this is an ongoing issue with the use of vehicle dealerships, is that there is some value that is attributable to those sales that is hard to remove because of that reason. So for the most part, neither party is relying on sales. Even though the assessor has used the sale, the assessment clearly does not reflect that because they recognize that it would be difficult to move to that value. And we recognize that there is a blue sky value in there because you can see from the project value at $14 million. And that's just the fixed assets. That's not including land. But even if you added the land value, you would be somewhere in the $19 to $20 million range, which is around where we are. So again, going back to the initial point of what cap rate I chose, you can see it on the next page. It's 6.50, and that is divided against the net operating income of $1,281,780 That gives me a market value of 19,719,687 or 19,718 total. And I'm open for questions.
Thank you. Ms. Scheibel, any questions?
No questions. I did ask question previous time about cap rate. Could you forward my questions for this property?
Any questions you asked before, we'll remember on this matter. Thank you. Ms. Anderson, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Leekleiter, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have no questions, so thank you. So we can then proceed with the property at 55 Fultz Boulevard, which is our item number 3. Ms. Scheibel, when you're ready?
File number 24-2163. Roll number 0309300591. Subject property located in 55 Fultz Boulevard. We assess 2025 roll at reference day April 1st, 2023 and 12,122,000. The subject property complete auto dealership, new, built in 2019, on land area of 378,031 square feet, with plan area 51,662 square feet, gross floor area and leasable area 56,162 square feet. The subject property photo on page number 2 through 3 and 6. Photo of subject property. The subject property located southwest of the city or photos following. It's location intersection Kennenston Boulevard. I cannot pronounce this street. Okay, inside photo page number 6, 7, you can see showroom, waiting area, service area, page 11. On page 12, I present the premise about construction of subject property. If you look on general constructed value, reported 20 million. On page 15 and 13 and 14, I have presented already comparables of retail, big boxes, shopping mall. So it shows that overall for 80 comparables, total average $18.78. We assess subject property $13.75. For leasable area 56,162 square feet. We apply same 2% vacancy loss expenses for not recoverable 3% shortfall $6 per square foot for vacant space to be consistent with all dealership across the city. For subject property capitalization rate, model generated 6%, give us estimation of 12,122,000. On page 17, we have chart of capitalization rate with of
Mr. Chair, we can't hear Ms. Scheibel.
Ms. Scheibel, you're on. I think your speaker is muted.
okay. Should I start from the beginning?
I'm not sure you left off, so maybe go back a little bit. I'm not sure where to stay.
Let's do income approach on
We heard
page
you.
number 15.
15, okay.
We did apply $13.75 for subject property for 56,162 square feet. because you did see on page 13 and 14, I presented retail rent. It's for 80 comparable, showed $18.78. We apply 2% vacancy loss, 3% not recoverable expenses, it's shortfall, $6 per square foot to be similar across a city for all dealership. For subject, it gives us net operating income $727,341. For subject property model generate 6% capitalization rate, give us estimation of 12,122,000. On page number 17, I have presented capitalization rate chart. At the decapitalization rate supported by comparison with real estate market report from Colliers International, CBRE, and Cushman Wakefield. On page 19, I presented cost approach for the subject property. The replacement cost after depreciation of around 7.6 million. Land value 7.6 million give us total estimation of value of cost over 15 million. On page 20, I support presented 5 land sale comparables. Showed that average land sale for $13.59. We apply $20 per square foot for the subject property. On page 21, land and building summary showed that land 7.56 million and building 6.67 million give us estimation over 15 million. On page 22, I presented a direct comparison comparables, 8 of them, and estimated assessed value per square foot for the subject property by dividing 12,122,000 gross floor area of improvements, 56,162 square feet, give us assessed value of $215.84. That very well supported by sale of similar properties. On page 25 through page 33, I showed air photos of direct comparison sale. On page 34, started land sale comparison. Through page 8. On page 39, I showed same order, municipal order 8179. On page 48, another municipal order 8-0223.
Chair, we can't hear Ms. Shable again.
Shable, again, you're on mute. Shable, you're on mute.
Okay, sorry. It's okay. On page 66, income expense Miller presented to us, it's owner occupied building. So based of evidence in my report, the assessed value of subject property with reference day April 1st, 2023, 12,122,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rivero, any questions?
Just that it's not, this is all model driven.
Correct.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Ms. Linklater, any questions?
Yes, Ms. Shable, this is just, this was just confirmed as model driven, correct? And so I'm just confused about the cap rate.
For previous two property, Zoning was C4 commercial regional. Subject property, a new building built 2019, but it's located in M2 manufacturing general. If you open page 5 of my brief about this zoning, this district intend to provide for light manufacturing, processing, service, storage, wholesale and distribution operation with some limited outdoor operation and storage. So model during generated capitalization rate account for zoning as well, not just for age of building, but zoning and another factors, variables.
Okay, so the model chooses this higher cap rate simply because of the zoning, even though it's also a dealership?
It's when for choosing capitalization rates, it include several varieties. But to compare its previous case, a subject property manufacturing, it's industrial zoning. So for commercial regional C4, model generate 5% capitalization rate for subject property because it's industrial zoning. It's what difference between previous cap rates. Model generates 6%.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it's a statistical crunch of numbers. It's statistical data. All sell across the city.
All right. I thank you.
Ms. Anderson, any questions?
Just to follow up on that, then the zoning triggers a different capitalization rate. Like, is the zoning of this property less desirable than the previous ones? Is that?
Difference also zoning because we have income approach and cost approach running simultaneously for model. And by land for industrial lower. If previous to property of Sterling line, land was over $13 per square foot for this regional zoning C4 commercial. For subject property, if you open page 20, is land for $20 per square foot.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Those are all my questions.
Okay. And I think following up on that, Ms. Scheibel, so both of these properties, we're talking about the property we dealt with, item number 2 on Sterling Lion, and this property, they're both car dealerships, correct?
Correct.
And neither of them are likely to be torn down and the property used for anything else because they're both new buildings. One built in 2018, I think the other was around the same time. So it's unlikely they're going to be torn down. Do you agree with that?
Correct.
So why would the zoning matter? What you have is what you got. Nobody's going to develop them. So what do they care about what it's zoned?
Because land value, when you assess property, you're doing 3 approaches. For model, we have 2 approaches running. Income approach should be very close to cost approach. If income approach doesn't support the land cost approach, system will be use cost approach, not cost approach, land value. If income approach something going wrong, going too low, land very important is for subject property.
Yeah, but somebody buying the property is not going to care what it's zoned at because what you got is what you got.
No, zoning very important because what you can build on these properties. If you're looking on page number 5,
I understand what you can build. I know it's important before the property's developed, but once it's developed, and it's not likely that it's going to be torn down and redeveloped, who cares what the zoning is?
No, zoning very important. It's because when you buy property, you can use like existing use improvements, or you will build something another if it's not support for this specific location. Because location in appraising major location when we appraise property. So zoning most important part.
Okay, so you're saying this is a less desirable location, and why is it less desirable? On Keniston at the old Bishop Grandin. I can't remember what it's called now. Why is that a less desirable location than the dealerships considering Lion? I mean, are less people going to be attracted there? It's just a little bit farther down Keniston.
Because Keniston, Lajimadir, it's more regional shopping malls. It's more people going there. It's also vision from the traffic flow on the road to cities property. It's very important. And for zoning, when it's industrial more, if it's sometimes industrial zone change to commercial, it's happened, but today it's industrial.
Okay, I have no further questions. Thank you very much. Mr. Navarro, you can proceed with your evidence.
Yep. Okay, so this is 55 volts, and I also say that I have been in this location as well. I actually got a full tour of it. However, I could not find the pictures of the inspection of when I did it. So I inspected this property shortly after it was occupied. And iCloud disagreed with me for some reason. I couldn't find the pictures. So, but I have been through the entirety of this building. On page 6, you can see the general location there. And this is the, this is west of Waverly and along Keniston there. So right off the bat, we can go to page number 8, and this will show the property land improvements description. So I don't need to get into the description of the improvement, but what I will say is that in the fourth paragraph, you'll note the zoning there. M2. I'll agree with the assessor that this probably is less desirable than the other location. However, one thing that has to be noted is that this is not actually part of the Waverly Auto Mall. So the first time that I went into this location, I accessed it through the Waverly Auto Mall. So I drove into the west side of the Waverly Auto Mall, went right to the end, and realized that there's a barrier there, which prevents access into this location. And there is also no access from what used to be called Bishop Grandin, or no access from Keniston, unless you go into the actual subdivision, the industrial park, and go through Penlow Bay, and hopefully you'll find it. So this, again, is not part of the auto mall, and you can't access it that way. You actually have to go around all these locations, access it through, I believe, off of Keniston, then you'll go through Henlow Bay, and right to the end of Henlow Bay, you'll hit Fultz. And Fultz is this dealership is basically at the very end of Fultz. Now you'll also see in the overhead picture that there is some land that is next to it. That is part of the property. And in most situations, that would be a valuable piece of land, and we would look at it as excess land. But because there is no direct access into it, there is no excess land here. This is surplus land, which effectively can't be used until the city allows either access through the Waverly Auto Mall or allows the owners to actually build another curb cut or access into it through the old Bishop Grandin Boulevard. That hasn't been allowed, and we don't think it will be allowed. That's what we've had in terms of conversations with the owners, is that they've tried many times to get this through City Hall, and they just don't, they won't allow it. So they're kind of stuck in the middle of an industrial park where you have to access it through a different location. It's not part of the Waverly Auto Mall. So then we can go to page 14 and talk about the cap rate again. So in this case, we've assigned a cap rate of 7.25, which is the retail standard quality. So why did we put a 7.25? Well, it kind of relates to what we previously put on the cap rate in the previous cycle. Again, we have this concept of basis point compression or movement from one cycle to another. So it kind of relates to that, but it also relates to the study that we've done. And the reason that we've assigned this to the standard quality is essentially because of its predicament, its specific predicament that it's in, being isolated away from the Waverly Auto Mall. So 7.25 is what we've assigned to it. Again, I don't think net operating income is really an issue here. We're very close to each other. We have a net operating income of $721,662. We've applied a cap rate of 7.25, an income value of 9.953. That takes it to $9,954,000. And I'm open for questions.
Thank you. Ms. Scheibe, any questions?
On your page 14, you showed range between 6.5 and to 7%, and you still choose a much higher capitalization rate, correct?
7.25 for the reasons outlined in my presentation.
No further questions.
Thank you. Ms. Linklater, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson, any questions?
And I have no questions, thank you.
And I have no questions. Thank you.
I would like summation.
Okay, proceed, Ms. Scheibe.
Our job here today to analyze the market evidence. It determines the best conclusion of market value. We have my opinion of market is supported by income approach, direct comparison approach, and cost approach. We have only one area disapproval of capitalization rate. We apply capitalization 6%. That does. By the end of the day, in summary, just to build this property in 2019, without cost of land, by my estimation, cost of land 7.5 million, very well supported in my brief, construction cost was 12 million in 2019, plus cost of land. And we assess only 12,122,000 at low rate of assessment. So based on my evidence presented in this brief, on April 1st, 2023, market value of subject property is 12,122,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scheibe. Mr. Navarro, I allowed Ms. Scheibe to make a summary. If you wish to do so too, you're welcome at this time.
I'm okay, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Navarro. So item number 4, I understand there's been a supplementary assessment on that property. So basically the application is really null and void.
Correct.
So there's 2 ways we can deal with it. It is on the docket. Either if you have to be withdrawn or you could confirm it. I guess it really means nothing because of the supplementary. So that's up to you, Mr. Navarro, but we should deal with it.
Yeah, I would just ask the panel to confirm the assessment.
Thank you very much. So we can then proceed with item number 5 on the docket, which is the property at 1700 Waverly Street.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Is it possible to take a break?
If a break's needed, we certainly can. How much time do you need, Ms. Linklater?
6 minutes.
6 minutes. Let's break then till 25 to 11.
I thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Scheibe, we're now dealing with the property at Unit D, 1700 Waverly Street. Item number 5 on our docket today. You can proceed when you're ready.
File number 24-2067, row number 03065043800. The subject property located in 1700 Waverly Street, Unit D. We assess 2025 roll with reference day April 1st, 2023 at 11,661,000. The subject property complete auto dealership, original first building, it's original building started in 1998, additional was built in 2002. On land area of 306,529 square feet, with plan area of improvement 56,965 square feet, gross floor area 66,215, but leasable area 64,401 square feet. On page number 2, the subject property view, street view. On page number 3, air photos of subject property. It's located at southwest part of the city, irregular shape of the land, located manufacturing general location. More photo of inside building on page number 6. On page number 7, we can see a showroom, drive-through area for customer service, storage area for parts on page number 10. On page 11, I presented permit about construction additional auto dealership in 2020. On page 12, another permit shows that this addition, interior exterior alteration to kitchen cabinetry or existing auto dealership interior work to include minor demolition, drywall repair, mechanical, electrical work to accommodate new market up air unit and air conditioning, exterior work to add new rooftop units. Just for this additional construction was selected 90,000. On page 13 and 14, I have presented 18 comparables for retail properties. On page 15, we assess subject property $12.63, but according to my comparables on page 14, 18 comparables average $18.78. We apply $12.63 for 64,401 square feet. We apply same 2% vacancy loss, expenses not recoverable 3% in shortfall, or $6 per square foot for vacant space. To be consistent with all dealership across the city, give us net operating income $765,475. For subject property overall capitalization rate selected by model 6.4%, give us estimation of income approach 11,961,000. On page 17, I present capitalization rates for the city with comparison with Collier, Siberia, and Cushman. For subject property, we look for retail properties that between 5.85% to 7%. On page 19, I have presented cost approach for the subject property. To replace the building, cost building new, 11.6 million minus all depreciation, give us depreciation cost of building 7 million roughly, but total land value 9.9 million, give us cost approach 17,000. 17 million. So by cost approach 17 million, we are assessed at 11.9 million On page number 20, support of rent comparables for land. On page 21, it's land and summary of 70 million by cost approach. On page 22, I presented sale of dealership, car dealership, 8 sales, and estimate assessed value per square foot by dividing assessed value of subject property 11,961,000 to gross area 66,215 square feet, give us assessed value of subject property $180.64. My 8 comparables showed range maximum. To example, let's look on last sales in 7-8 between 200 to 265. Our assessed value $180 per square foot. On following pages, view air photo and street view of direct comparison sales through page 33. On page 34, I have presented lands and comparables for cost approach through page 38. On page 39, I presented municipal order 8-04179 and another municipal order where we showed retail parameter for order 8-0223. It started on page 48. By the end of my brief, I posted income expenses mailer provided to us. On this income expense mailer, we have rent, one tenant's rent. If you open page on page 68, we have income expense mailer. They showed net tenants, or they pay 600. Let's estimate together what rent they showed to us. 604,604 divide by square footage 6,215 square feet. They showed a rent at $9.30. And on page 71, I showed the property assessment notice for 11,961,000. Based on evidence in my report, the subject property in 2025 roll with reference years April 1st, 2003, as should be confirmed at 11,961,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scheibel. Mr. Navarro, do you have any questions of Ms. Scheibel?
I do. Again, Ms. Scheibel, the parameters for this are, again, model driven, and you've made no adjustments to that?
Correct.
Okay. Now, regarding the property itself, it has M2 zoning. Can you confirm that?
Correct. Same like previous.
Okay.
That's why capitalization rate, its previous was 5%. Previous brief was 6%. This model generate 6.4% capitalization rate due age of building. 1998 started through 2002.
Okay. Now, you've stated before that using the evidence that, based on the evidence that you've submitted in the back of your briefs, which indicate that the municipal board has sided with the position that valuation parameters that are supposed to be used for this type of property are based on retail parameters. How would you account for that in the model?
In my model, model count for big boxes retail to produce rent for subject property. And I, based off this brief, this order, I presented retail rent comparables to support car dealership rent.
So,
That very less that much lower what my comparable showed.
okay. Ms. Shable, does the M2 zoning allow for auto dealerships use?
I presented, let's see what the zoning showed. If you open page 5 of my brief, this district intend to provide for light manufacturing, processing, service, storage, wholesale and distribution operation with some limited outdoor operation and storage.
I guess the answer is yes, because we see an auto dealership in M2 zone parcel, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, is auto use allowed in C4 zoning?
C4 zoning, my previous cases, let's look in Sterling. Fine. My brief. It's a C4 region now. If you look on my previous brief, 485 Sterling Parkway, on page 3, I presented zoning. C4 commercial regional is intended to accommodate the development of range-scale distinctive and attractive regional center containing a mix of concentrated land uses. Those commercial uses are subject for frequent view by public and visitors to Winnipeg, and they should provide an attractive appearance with landscaping, sufficient parking, controlling traffic movement. The center should provide commercial, office, institutional, residential uses in structured high intensives that surrounding area. This area also contain concentration of medium to high density office development, as well as a broad mix of complementary uses, which may include major civil and public facilities park. This district may contain multi-family housing, and development should facilitate and encourage pedestrian travel between residential and not residential uses. So commercial using C4 give more opportunity for future development in more expensive land.
Okay, and again, I think it's correct to say that it obviously does allow for auto dealership use, because we have an auto dealership in the other examples in C4 zone lands, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so are we valuing the use or are we valuing the zoning?
We value the use.
Okay,
But to prove my cost approach, I have to show how much land cost as vacant.
thank you. No other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Navarro. Ms. Leafler, any questions?
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Anderson, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
I guess my only question is, we just dealt with the property item number 3, which is adjacent Waverly outside of the mall, and it had a cap rate of 6%, and this is essentially very, very close to it in the mall, and it's got a cap rate of 6.4. How did the model have such a big discrepancy between two auto dealerships that are in such close proximity?
Yes, they have same zoning, they're close to each other, but big difference if building built in 2019 and building start to build in 1998, age of building. When built is with aging of improvements, more capitalization rate much higher, not 6.4 to account for some aging of building.
Does the model take into account the fact that there was a recent permit taken out to update the property extensively? And it's been renovated significantly?
In our case, we still using effective years 2002. So I already was looking, I have to update the properties according to our current renovation in 2018. According permit I posted here. So it's I will update this property record by increasing effective years built. Because I have to reflect this additional renovation in 2018 of 9 million. So it shows that our assessment less than 12 million. It's a very low range. It will be much higher for next assessment because after I will update property records.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions. So, Mr. Navarro, you can proceed with your evidence.
Sure. This is D 1700 Waverly Street. And again, with this situation, I have been through the dealership, but not the entirety of it. I've been in the shop and the showroom areas. On page 6, you can see the general location of it, and you can see the overhead view or the bird's eye view on the bottom of the page. If we turn to page 16, you can see the income workup. So we've estimated $800,416. That's $12.43. We've used some of the standard parameters that the assessor has also used for vacancy, for shortfall management and other, and a capitalization rate of 7%. Net operating income is $753,147. Divide that into the capitalization rate, you get an income value of $10,759,248. We've made a negative adjustment to $480,000. That is based on taking away the value of the adjacent parcel. You can see it actually on page 3 of the assessor's brief and see that there is a corner portion just below the main holding. I don't know if you can take a quick look at that.
Okay.
Okay, so the bottom portion is a separate roll number, and the assessor has valued it at $480,000. We've taken that away. This is essentially one economic unit. So the valuation of the entirety of this property, including that, would be captured within the valuation of this property. That is the reason that we take away that $480,000. In terms of, why again? It's because you're capturing the value of the entirety of this property within the main holding. So there is no need for that additional value. It's taken off of the main holding. And we do this in similar situations for most properties where you have a situation like that. Now, when it comes to the cap rate that I've chosen, 7%. So going back to the chart on page 15, so this would be still within the retail top quality. We noticed that there is a difference in terms of the locations. So basically in the previous locations that we saw at the outlet mall, we are agreeing that that is a superior location. And part of the issue is that we're taking parameters taken from the retail sector. And that's what those cases at the end of the assessor's briefs are saying, is that you're supposed to be taking parameters consistent with retail. Now, we recognize that in the other locations, the retail rents are higher than they are in this area. So that's where you see a difference. So that is why you're seeing up to, in some cases, a $10 difference in terms of the rents that are being applied. Now, if you look at it from an investment perspective, this is a modern dealership. It is built in stages and it has been improved to some extent. We don't see a difference between this and the previous property, other than the fact that this property has an advantage because it's within the auto mall. So in that sense, I can't understand the assessor's cap rate because this is reversed. This property actually has an advantage over the other one. And they're both modern dealerships. So in terms of age, we don't think age has a very big difference. And you can verify it by the income potential that we're assigning to these properties. They're very similar. That means that we're viewing these properties as being very equal. Now, with the exception of location. Location for this one is better than the other one that we just looked at Fultz. And as I mentioned, Fultz is in an inferior position because it doesn't have access to the rest of the auto mall. And you have to go around to get to it. Now, I'm still within the bracket of the top quality retail class. And where I've changed is I've gone from a 6.50 to a 7.50, which is the high end of the scale for us. And that is basically based on the idea that in terms of the income and the growth of this investment, it's not going to be as high as the one in the other location. As you can see, from the perspective of an investor, if an investor owned this property as a rental property, they would be seeing higher growth potential for the other location than they would for this location. And that's reflected in the rent, and that's reflected in the cap rate that I use for those other properties. For this property, it's slightly different. The income potential, the future growth potential is different. It's lower. And for that sense, I've gone to the top of the retail top quality class. I hope that explains it, but that's why I've assigned a 7.00 cap rate on that. And I'm open for questions.
Okay, Ms. Shabbo, any questions?
No further questions.
Ms. Anderson, any questions?
I have no questions. Thanks for your presentation.
Thank you. Ms. Leitler, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I've got a question on the land that you deducted for, the adjacent land.
Yeah,
It's on a separate roll?
it's on a separate roll.
Is it needed for the operation of this dealership?
That's right.
Well, okay, and I'm asking you why it is when I see that this property, with the land that you've got on this tax roll, is got a 4.76 to 1 building to land. So to me, that seems to be enough land for a dealership without just additional land.
Well, that varies for car dealerships, especially the larger volume car dealerships. So, for example, a Hyundai dealership may not need as much land as a GM dealership that sells trucks, that sells larger vehicles. And, you know, this happens to be a very high volume dealership. So the land to building ratios vary amongst even auto dealerships.
Would you agree that this is probably one of the largest land to, without the additional land, you've already got one of the largest.
Absolutely, absolutely. I won't disagree with that. I won't disagree with that, but I will also state as a caveat that, again, this is a very high volume dealership.
Okay, next question then is there an app, so you're indicating that the adjacent land has been assessed at 400, where did I have it down? $480,000?
Yeah.
And is there an application for decrease on that property before another panel that's going to be hearing it later?
No,
No?
no.
And in the past, how has that been treated?
Generally, if there is an application.
No, I'm talking about this property itself. I'm talking about this property itself. In the past, there's been a deduction from the assessed value.
Oh, yes. Yes, there has been.
There has?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Your understanding? Are you sure? Because
I can't be 100% sure, but that's what we've done in the past.
well, you've done it, but has it been allowed? Because to me, it seems like you've got.
Oh, well,
No, hang on. Excuse me. It seems that you have a very high land to building ratio already. I don't see why you need more land, so I'm wondering why there would be a deduction for that.
Well, so again, it goes back to the volume dealership. So obviously they feel that it is needed, and it's paved. It's part of the dealership. There is no separation between the two. Really, the easiest fix to this would have been a simple consolidation by the assessor.
Well, in fact, all the dealerships in the mall have that strip of property in the back that was purchased after the fact. Is that not correct? They all got the adjacent property that was for sale behind them, and all the dealerships.
Yeah, so we had a Hyundai dealership that's just a little bit east of this one, which had the same case.
Yeah.
But in that case, the assessor consolidated the two parcels.
Okay, thank you. I think I have no other questions. Okay, well, that completes all the matters that we were hearing today. Unless there is summation requested by either Ms. Scheibe or you, Mr. Navarro, we'll be complete.
Yes, please.
I'll ask you, Ms. Scheibe, do you have a summation you wish to bring forward?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
Our job here today is to analyze the market evidence to determine the best conclusion of market value. My opinion of market is supported by three approaches: income approach, cost approach, indirect comparison approach. Major disagreement for income approach is capitalization rate. For subject property, we use model generate 6.4%. I would like to mention that our estimation less than $12 million by income approach, but I want to bring your attention to cost of land, 9.9 million. Just cost of land of page 19, very well supported by my evidence and comparables. So based on my evidence, the analysis, April 1st, 2023 market value of subject property is 11,961,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Navarro, do you wish to summary?
Yes, I think in general, covering all of the properties that we dealt with, I think we've stuck to the idea of using retail parameters for the evaluation of these properties, regardless of the zoning. It is the use that we're valuing, not the zoning. And that is reflected in our valuation in terms of the rents and also in terms of the cap rates that we've assigned to these properties, which again is consistent with the cap rate report that we've submitted in evidence along with these properties. So that is my summation.
Thank you, Mr. Navarro. Okay, we've now heard all items that were scheduled to be heard this morning. So I'm going to adjourn the hearing at this point. We will deliberate and render our decisions, which you will all receive in very short order. And thank you for your attendances, your briefs, and for cooperating in actually having this matter proceed very smoothly this morning. So thank you both for that.
Thank you
Thank
very much.
you.
Have a great day.
Yeah, have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Scheibe. Thank you, Mr. Navarro.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll go take us offline, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Harland.